If you come for me and you think I'm a cult leader, I will send Jesus after you, but with gifts to make you think otherwise. You get a gift, you get a gift, and you get a gift. Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. I'm Raphael and I'm here to review episode 12 of The Real Gift Giving So You Don't Think I'm a Cult Leader of Salt Lake City. So we start the episode off right where we left off with Lisa finally admitting to the group that she had a one-on-one conversation with Cameron and he had told her that he had mortgaged his house for $300,000 and gave it off to Mary. And then we get this flashback scene with the actual sit-down conversation between Lisa and Cameron and I'm so confused. I'm like, Bravo, why are we not showing this on a regular episode? Why did we not have the entire scene play out on an episode a couple episodes ago when it happened? I believe it was a month ago. Why do we cut that out and just use that as a flashback? I'm so confused. But instead, you give us these scenes with Heather talking about the Mormon church 24/7. This is the content that we want to see. Not Heather talking about her daughter's sex life or the Mormon church for the 100th time. This is what we want to see. We want to see the Cameron and Lisa sit-down conversation of what he was admitting to her. And he basically said that Mary and her granddaddy husband will put the fear in the church's people by telling them, if you don't pay up and if you don't give us your money to pay for Mary's surgeries, which was to get rid of her odor gland, her sweat gland, I'm assuming. I'm like, Mary, this is what you're using the money for? But okay, if you didn't pay up and give the money to Mary for her surgeries, you will probably go to hell depending on which choice you made. If you gave the money, you will probably go to heaven. If you didn't, you'll probably go to hell. And I'm like, my God, Mary and your granddaddy husband, what a terrible thing to do. And I believe it too. But again, I wish we would have got the whole scene played out, right? So then Meredith, she gets upset and she's like, no, I'm not going to believe those type of lies, Lisa. I'm sorry, but I want actual facts. I want facts because this is just a jab that you're taking at Mary for some reason. And I'm like, but Meredith, you were just like begging Lisa to give you some type of evidence or something on Mary. And when she does, you don't believe it. So I'm confused on what exactly you want Lisa to do. Did you want her to like come up with a whole PowerPoint presentation on why Mary might be a cult leader? So I'm confused, Meredith, on what exactly you want Lisa to do, because one second you're begging her to give you information on Mary, and the second that she does, you're like, no, I don't believe it. I want facts. I want a thesis statement. I want a PowerPoint. I want a table of contents. I want a 4-page letter like Aaliyah. I need all the information, and I need your sources on where you got all this information from. So I'm confused on that. Even what Lisa said later on, she's like, it's so hypocritical of Meredith to do this and want actual evidence and facts. But with Jen, the second that she read on her phone, Jen might be a criminal, she's guilty. You know, there was no second guessing that. But for Mary, her friend, you know, she wants all the evidence in the world. But again, just because she had an issue with Jen and just because she's not on good terms with Jen, all of a sudden she's like, no, I don't need evidence for Jen. Whatever it says on the article, yeah, that's what she is. I mean, the article could have said Jen is the new Teletubby and she would have went with it and would have been like, yeah, that's probably true. And you know, Lisa and Heather, I like how they were both trying to tag team Mary to Meredith, like to get it into her head that she might be a cult leader. She might be a cult leader. And something I did not understand with Lisa is that she tries to play the producer, but she's so sloppy with it. She leaves evidence in the snow, no pun intended, because, you know, there's snow all over the place. But, you know, Lisa tries to play the producer. She tries to be like what Kyle does on Beverly Hills, except she's a little bit sloppier about it, and she leaves evidence that it could all go back to her. I mean, she acts as if Mary cannot just watch this whole season back or watch this episode and then confront her at the reunion like, what is this that you were spreading about Cameron and I? Like, what's going on? I mean, yeah, she tried to clean it up later when she goes in the room one-on-one with her. But, you know, again, Lisa, we all see what you're doing. But maybe she doesn't care. Maybe that's what she thinks that makes good TV, which it does. So then Meredith, she is just going off. She is not believing it. She is getting more and more and more pissed. And she's just like, no, I'm not going to believe these lies and accusations to Mary. I want actual facts and evidence. No. Jen was a shitty person and she harassed me and my family for years. And I am not going to believe this. I am not going to believe anything about Mary. I have told every single one of you about Jen and I have given evidence and nobody has ever believed me. So I am not going to run with this about Cameron. I'm sorry, but no, the whole church trauma, I'm just not buying it. I'm sorry. And I'm like, wow, Meredith, again, showing your true colors here with with your whole purpose of Jen of whether she's guilty or not, or whether you need evidence or not to confirm that. It's all a bunch of BS. Just say that you hate the woman and you're not forgiving her over the whole Brooke situation and call it a day, you know. But Lisa, she was just like, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm done. Look, I'm going to sleep. No, I can't with this. You know what? No, I'm going to sleep. Jenny, are you coming to sleep with me? Okay, no, I'm just gonna go to sleep with me. No, I'm done with this. I'm done. And then Heather, everybody's trying to calm her down. They're like, Lisa, wait, no, come back. And Whitney, she's like, wait, I want to do shots with you. I want to keep dancing with you. I'm like, Whitney, shh. But Lisa was smart because, again, trying to be producer, she got ahead of this whole entire storm that was about to come her way because she went up to Mary's room. And I'm like, Lisa, were you purposely just put that out there to cause a hurricane between Meredith and the whole group? And now you're trying to clean up your image to Mary because she went up to Mary's room like, hey, Mary, hey, I know it's late right now and you're working on your scam on how to scam people out of their money for church next Sunday, but can we just talk about something really quickly? There's been a lot of rumbling going around the house and there's been a lot of talk about you. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to believe it, so I'd rather come to the source, you know? And you better talk quickly because the cameramen are coming up the stairs. I can almost hear them. So what's going on? Well, I mean, are you going to believe what people are saying about me or are you going to believe me? Because we're friends, so I'm confused, Lisa. Like, what exactly are you trying to say about me? Well, honestly, Mary, I'm not even trying to... I'm just gonna be straight up with you. I'm gonna ask you this to your face, one-on-one. Okay, do people think... I'm sorry to ask you this, but do people think that you're a god at your church? Do people at your church think you're a god? Just be honest with me? What? A god? A god? Yes, of course. I mean, no, they don't. What do you mean? No, a god. Who would say such a thing? Like, what are you talking about? Lisa, what? Well, I didn't want to say anything, but it was Whitney. Well, it was all Whitney. Whitney just told me right now that that people supposedly at your church, they say that you're like a god or something. Like, I'm not sure. And it was pretty scary. So I wanted to just ask you, you know, I really wanted to ask you about this, you know? And just like that, Lisa threw Whitney right underneath the bus. Not the school bus, but the actual public bus, the big long one. And at this point, Lisa is the driver of the same said bus because she does not care who she needs to run over. As long as the show continues going, she's going to run you over. Also, there's some new information on Lisa's Twitter where she backtracked on what she told Mary inside her room, where she said, oh yeah, me and you, Mary, our relationship is much longer and much stronger than Cameron's relationship. I have known you longer than I know Cameron. But on Twitter, she says the opposite. She just tweeted this last night saying, yeah, me and Cameron knew each other way before Mary. He actually introduced me to Mary. So that's how I know her. So I'm like, okay, Lisa, so which one is it? Have you known Mary longer? Did you know Cameron longer? Which one is it? Again, you're trying to be producer here and it's kind of crumbling in front of you. So then the next morning we see Mary walking up to somebody's room and knocking on the door, and this door belongs to Jenny's room. And I'm like, okay, what's this about? And Mary's also holding a bag. And she's like, you know, after the whole thing last night with Jenny doing my makeup, I thought that I would give her like a peace offering. And I'm like, again, the second scene in this episode that we should have seen a whole scene play out. I kind of wanted to see Jenny do Mary's makeup. Why was she doing that in the first place? Like, what did she get Mary to do to actually sit down and actually, like, you know, have a conversation with her, or to let her actually touch her face? Because we all know that Mary wanted nothing to do with Jenny. So what did Jenny do to Mary or say to her to convince her to sit down and just let her apply makeup? We wanted to see that, Bravo. What are y'all doing? Maybe because the weekend was just so jam-packed with everything that they couldn't give us everything, but you know, at least give us like a 2-minute scene between them. Regardless, she gives Jenny a bag and she's like, here you go, you know, I just want you to know that everything is good between us. And then Jenny's like, you know, they flash back to the scene before, the night before, and she's like, you know, I just want you to know that I'm sorry, I wanted to have good fun. This is Jenny talking to Mary, and she's like, I just wanted to have good fun, so, you know, I just wanted to go snow tubing, so I'm sorry. And Mary, I don't know what Mary was trying to say. I had to hear it 3 times and I still didn't understand it. I'm like, is this manipulation? Because she was just like, oh yeah, Jenny, can you accept that I accept your apology? And I kept listening to that over and over, and I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Like, is that her way of saying that I'm not sorry for what I said or for my part in it? Even though Mary doesn't have to apologize for anything, but I was just confused on what she was trying to say. Regardless, Jenny, she opens up the box, and it was some really nice shoes. I mean, they were Christian Louboutins shoes. And I'm like, oh, okay, so Mary, this is cute. You know, it's a cute little peace offering. And, you know, kudos to Mary for being the bigger person, right? as of yet, right? So, because Jenny, she's trying on the shoes, and surprisingly, they fit. They're cute. Jenny's so happy. And I'm like, what? Like, Mary, you give her red bottoms for telling you to shut the fuck up? If I tell somebody to shut the fuck up around in my life, they just give me the cold shoulder. I get no gifts. I get no red bottoms. I get nothing. I just get, okay, well, we're not inviting you to the next event. But meanwhile, Jenny gets a whole red bottom shoe. But okay, so... I'm thinking everything is cute. Everything is, fine between them. But then Mary in her confessional, she lets us know that the only reason she gave these shoes to Jenny was because when she left the house to come on this trip, she grabbed these shoes and she put them in her luggage. And she was just like, yeah, no, this is too much luggage. I'm just going to give these shoes away to Jenny. And, I really didn't buy them for her as a peace offering. I just gave them to her because they were taking up space in my luggage. And I'm like, wow, Mary, that is so fucked up. But, the fact that, well, I would say the fact that she has so much money to just give away stuff like that. But then again, I remember, and it's the people from her church's money that she's taking to give away gifts like this. And I'm like, I hope they're keeping track of this, that she's just giving away red bottom shoes like this. Meanwhile, if I was Jenny watching this episode from home and seeing what Mary said in her confessional about giving this gift to me just because she's being petty because she didn't have enough space in her luggage, I would have been like, okay, Mary, you want to play that game? It's fine. I would have, put the shoes back in the box, in the bag. I would have been like, okay, fine. The next church meeting that you're having with your cult, it's fine. I'm going to show up, and when you're sending the little basket or whatever they do at the church to collect the money, I'm gonna just put the red bottoms in the box. Like, okay, here's my donation to the church. Here you go. And this is all paid because of everybody in this room. Jenny, if she wants to be petty, you be pettier. Things continue to get interesting with Mary and her gift giving, and it's so interesting that this episode lands around December, around the same time as Christmas, where you give each other gifts, so Mary is kind of like the Salt Lake City Santa Claus, giving everybody Louis Vuitton gifts. But regardless, Whitney, she's in her room, and then Heather, she comes in there, she's like, I'm about to go meet up with my sister Nancy. Can I sit there next to you? Do you want to talk? And Whitney, she has her guard up a little bit because she's like, well, Heather, I just want to get to the bottom of it because last night I was trying to watch, some cartoons and everything. I was going to watch Scooby-Doo. The one with the Hex Girls. I was trying to watch that, and I heard some rumbling next door, and, the walls are very thin in this Airbnb, and I think we need to get a better, more expensive Airbnb for next time. But regardless, I heard some laughter coming through the walls, and I found it fishy that it was you, Lisa, and Mary's voice all laughing, and ha ha ha, and he he he. So I'm very confused on that. Would you like to elaborate on that? And then Heather, she lets us know that she was sleeping in her room. She was thinking about the Mormon church and how she's not in there anymore. She was also thinking about her daughter and going away to college. She was, dreaming about it. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, she was awoken by two people, and those two people were Mary and Lisa. And Mary, she came in there with gifts, with a Louis Vuitton bag to give to her. And Lisa's like, oh, hey, Heather, hey, and they basically butter her up with the whole conversation that they had a couple of minutes ago, with all basically accusing Mary of being a cult leader. And what I got from it is that Mary was basically trying to buy out everybody's trust and loyalty to her side again, because she saw that things were shifting away from her. Like, oh, they're on to me. They're gonna think that I'm a cult leader. They're not gonna stop at this until they find the truth. So now she's like, wait a minute, I got expensive gifts. Let me give this to you so you could hush up for for at least another season or two. Maybe around season 5, season 6. Maybe that's when I'll get exposed. But for now, this Louis Vuitton should keep you hush hush for like 2 more seasons. I feel like that's what Mary was trying to do, and I feel like Whitney's not buying it. Heather, I feel like Heather will fall for anything. Like, if the wind blows, she'll fall over like, oh my God, I'm sorry, I fell for the lies, So I don't blame Whitney for having her guard up, especially with Heather, because Heather, I don't know. Even though Heather on Twitter, she said that she did not take Mary's bag or her gift. She was just like, no, I returned it. Allegedly, that's what she said on Twitter. And Heather also let us know that, yeah, I don't want to say that they kind of pinned it all on you, but I feel like that's the idea that I got from at least what Mary said, because Mary said that she will never be friends with you, Whitney, and that she also is going to be best friends with Lisa forever. And I'm like, wow, like all of this plan that Lisa came up with, it all worked because now they're all, well, Mary's against Whitney, and they're all shifting the blame on Whitney as if they did not all just have a conversation, including Heather, about Mary possibly being a cult leader. And Heather's like, yeah, I feel like Lisa had this whole thing in motion. I mean, for a while. I'm like, Heather, Lisa has had this whole entire plot in motion even before she knew who the cast was for the season 1 of Salt Lake City. Like, that's how produced Lisa is. She wants to have everything ahead of time, and she's getting in her way. And honestly, what I really wish from Whitney, because Whitney's just, she's kind of like a little soft bear. I wish that she was just like, no, I'm not going to stand for this. I'm going directly to the source. Lisa, let's go outside and have a huge snowball fight to the death or something, because it's just, Whitney's just an easy target. And the most that she's going to do is just say, oh, well, I feel like Lisa, I don't want to cry. Lisa is a two-faced, fake, cold-hearted bitch. And I'm like, okay, Whitney, that's all you're going to do? Like, it seems like, I don't want to say that she doesn't have a backbone, but she doesn't have that oomph to stand up against Lisa or Mary or really any of the other women. So that's why they probably all think that she's an easy target. Mostly Lisa and Mary think that she's an easy target. That let's just blame her for thinking that Mary is, these rumors of people thinking that she's a god is coming from Whitney, because what is Whitney going to do? Nothing. And Whitney, I feel like, you need to show them that you're much more than just, there in the background. So then we finally get a sit down between Heather and her sister Nancy and her husband. And what I took away from the conversation is that it's so funny that Heather is so quick to point fingers at Mary for running her church like a cult, for possibly being a cult leader, for possibly running this huge cult at her church. But the same way that she describes that is almost the same way that she describes the Mormon church. But she never calls the Mormon church a cult. She never identifies it as a cult. Yeah, she's saved now and she's not in the religion, but when you were in it, would you say that you were also part of a cult the same way that you say that Mary's part of a cult? Because it sounds very cult-like. Like the same way that she was just saying, oh yeah, you have to follow these rules, you have to do this, you have to do that, and if you don't oblige by these rules, then you're not part of my life. And even her own sister, she shunned her entire sister out of her life just because she didn't want to participate in the Mormon life. So isn't that a cult mentality, Heather? I mean, I'm just saying. Because if you're gonna say that Mary's running a cult, then the Mormon church is also something cult-like. And it's very unfortunate because even the father, I believe, that's what Nancy said, that the father didn't speak to her because she was too busy having a hot girl winter and doing X, Y, and Z over there, X, Y, and Z over there, and she just didn't want to participate in it. And Heather couldn't stand that. And then Nancy, she also admits that she was jealous. She was jealous of Heather, and she was just like, I wanted to be you. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute, Nancy. Let's not get way too ahead of ourselves. I mean, Heather's cool and all, but you don't want to have all her traits because she lets people call her Shrek, let alone a list of other things. But it's just very unfortunate, their relationship, and hopefully they rebuild it now. And I'm not sure if Heather was just like, yeah, you still haven't met my children. I'm not sure if that still stands till today, but if that is, that's very unfortunate. And hopefully the door has opened up from this conversation and this show, or a conversation off the show, because that's very unfortunate that Nancy has never met any of her daughters. I mean, it just goes to show you how, people could be so sucked into religion that they will ban anybody of importance in their lives just to follow some type of religion, just to feel a part of something higher than humans. So as everybody's packing their stuff, getting ready to leave Vail, Whitney and Heather are both at the table eating, they're discussing, they're talking. We see Jenny, Lisa, and Meredith both in the living room. And then Lisa, she's like, oh, Whitney and Heather, both of you should come in here. We got coasters. There's coffee tables over here. Let's all talk. And then Meredith, she calls for an intervention. And she's just like, well, I just want to talk to everybody. And I just want to put everything out there that I don't feel comfortable with anybody talking behind each other's backs. And that's what I want to discuss in this group meeting right now. And then Jenny, she's like, in her confessional, she's like, it's so funny that now Meredith doesn't want to talk about anybody behind their back or any of her friends, but she just hired a personal investigator to track all of Jen's moves. And I'm like, okay, Jenny, I see what you were going with that. I really did. But the difference is that Meredith, she tracked a PI to investigate the harassment that was going on in her family towards Brooks. Not necessarily Jen. The PI just so happened to say, oh yeah, it's probably Jen doing the harassment. She didn't necessarily put a PI on Jen specifically, but I wouldn't be surprised regardless. So Jenny, I see what you were trying to go with that, but regardless, there's tension in the room. Everybody's just like, okay, what's going on? Mary, she comes down, she sits down, and then Meredith, she proceeds to tell Mary that she's sorry for ever bringing up Cameron or, discussing him behind her back when she feels like she should have had that one-on-one conversation with Mary and no one else. So I'm like, okay, Meredith, we understand that, Meredith, she just doesn't want Mary to go through what she went through last year with all the rumors of her and her husband and how Jen was basically spreading that around the group. So I'm like, okay, I guess I understand that. And then Lisa, this is where, again, she started falling in her trap. Whitney, even though she's soft-spoken, she has put all the pieces to Lisa's puzzle together because she's like, wait a minute, the person here that brought up Cameron was Lisa. He's the only reason why that he's even being mentioned in this group because she brought him to the whole event that her son has supposedly, made the entire guest list. So he just so happened to be there. He just so happened to be mic'd up. He just so happened to have a conversation with Meredith. He just so happened to talk about Mary and her cult and her church and the reason why he left it all of a sudden. But that all gets left out, right? That's what everybody's not connecting. But Whitney, she was smart enough to connect everything, to connect all the dots. And I also wonder how Mary will feel seeing Lisa have that one-on-one conversation that we saw in the flashback with Cameron and her asking him, oh, so wait, what did you do with that money? Like, why did you do that? Did you mortgage your house? I wonder how Mary will feel seeing all of that. So Lisa, you have a very hard moment coming to you at the reunion when everybody sees this. And then Meredith, she's like, wait, no, let's stop everything. Let's hear Mary. Let's let Mary have the floor. Mary is just like, I don't really owe anybody an explanation. And she basically just looked down at Whitney for even acknowledging what Lisa was saying or bringing up Cameron or whatever. I feel like in Mary's head, she just feels that it's all Whitney's fault, that Lisa has no part in this. And Lisa, she is very smart because she tries to overtalk and get loud when she knows she's about to be exposed, because every time Whitney tries to make a good point, which is a valid point, Lisa jumps in and she's like, oh, that's a good question. Oh, here we go again. That's another good question. Oh yeah, let's ask that. Why is that? So she always throws in her little comments because she knows everything that she has produced is about to backfire in her face. Mary, she just starts talking down to Whitney, and I'm just like, damn, Mary, relax a bit. Whitney's just trying to have a conversation with you. I feel like Whitney is genuinely trying to look out for Mary or trying to be in her good graces, and Mary's just not having it because she's brainwashed by Lisa, even though she says, oh, I'm not really that easily manipulated. Yes, you are, and you do the manipulation. Her and Lisa are just a good manipulation team. Because Lisa manipulates Mary and the entire cast, and she sways everybody's opinion and the whole plot. And Mary, she manipulates her church people. So it's all like a domino effect. And then Heather, she jumps in, and even though I was kind of here for it, I'm like, Heather, how come you don't have this energy with Jen? Jen has called you. We don't need to go through the list of things that she has called her, Shrek. But, she has called you all those names and you just stayed quiet to it and hush to it. But here, Mary is going after Whitney, and then you jump in for that. I thought that was interesting. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we just pick and choose. But if I was Whitney, it would have just been so many moments before I let Mary just continue downplay me and down talk to me like that, talking to me like I'm some type of little girl, before I would have just lunged at her. Because Mary was just being disrespectful. I'm like, damn, Mary, again, relax, take it easy. I get where Mary was kind of coming from, especially all these accusations and stuff. But when we genuinely know as an audience that it's not all Whitney's fault, that's when we're looking at it like, damn, okay, like, wait, what did Whitney do? And even Heather was just like, wait, to Lisa, because Lisa had also jumped in again, and Lisa was just like, no, Mary, Whitney, Mary definitely, she cares about Whitney. And I'm like, wow, Lisa, like, you are so two-faced. And this is why she's a good housewife for this show, because she knows what she's doing to a certain extent, And then Heather, she's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Mary likes Whitney and she cares for her. That's not the conversation that we had last night. That you said the opposite, and Mary said the opposite too. And again, Lisa's just getting caught up in her lies, and Mary is just not seeing it. And Whitney's just like, Lisa, how come you had a whole different tone last night? But here, you have a whole different tone with Mary. You chose to go up to her room and to talk to her about everything and then blame everything on me. And then Lisa, again, projecting and deflecting and everything. She's just like, no, 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 no. If this is what you're going to think of me and you're going to think of me as a bad person, then you better stop, Whitney, because if you're thinking I'm a bad person, then I'm going to think negative and badly of you. And I'm like, you see, Lisa, you're just projecting all those lies and everything that you're trying to cover up in this castle full of manipulation, and it's all crumbling in front of you and you hate to see it. Lisa continues yelling over Whitney's valid points, and then Mary steps in and she's like, Lisa, 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 stop. Everybody, shh. She calms everybody down. She tells everybody to shut up, basically. And then Heather, she's like, I just find it funny how both of you came into my room last night basically saying, oh, are you done with Whitney? You're done with Whitney, right? After you gave me this gift, this bag as a gift, you know, as a kind of like a token thing, like, oh, here, take this bag from me, Mary, your good friend. You're going to stop talking to Whitney, right? Because now that I gave you a gift, you have to listen to me because I'm trying to manipulate you and try to buy your love and your friendship and your trust so that way you could turn on Whitney. That's what Heather was basically saying. And then Whitney, she goes around the room and she's just like, wait a minute. Who here has a gift? Who here has a gift from Mary? And then we see Jenny. Jenny's just like, yeah, I got some Christine Louis Vuittons. And I'm like, Christine? Who the hell is Christine? Is that a new startup luxury brand or something that we don't know about, Jenny? But she's like, oh, I don't speak French. I didn't know they were French, but you know, I learn something new every day, I guess. But you know, she said that she got some Christine red bottoms, and then they continue putting the prices right next to each item that each of the women got. Lisa, I believe she got a clutch that was like $1,000 or $5,000. I think Heather got the most expensive gift. She got a bag, and the bag was close to $6,000. And I'm like, damn. First of all, the Bravo editors are very shady for putting the prices of each thing, because I know that her church, the church people, are just at home like watching this like, wow, well, fuck me then. Like, here I am trying to give myself to God, and then we have this woman just giving her money around like it's nothing, trying to buy everybody's trust. You know, that is terrible. And then Heather also was just like, oh yeah, everybody here has a gift but Whitney. And then Mary's just like, oh, well, I have a gift for her, but I'm not going to give it to her. I'll give it to her when I feel like it. And she might not even get it anymore. And I'm like, damn. Lisa, she continues yelling over everybody, trying to, you know, deflect all the heat coming in her direction. Heather, she starts getting upset with Mary, because Mary continues going back and forth with Whitney, and then she tries to interject, and she's like, you know, I just want to talk about something, and then Mary put her finger up, and she's like, you shh, shh, shh. And if I was Heather, that finger would have been missing somewhere in the snow behind the house, because absolutely not. I'm telling you, Mary talks to all the women on this cast, or at least the ones that she has the problem with, as if they're like extremely beneath her, like underneath her foot type of beneath. I can only imagine how she talks. I mean, I can't imagine because there's audio, but I can only imagine how she talks to the people in her church this way, because this is a preacher and this is how you talk to people. You just constantly downplay anybody that you have a problem with. And then the worst part is that in her confessional, after Heather tried to explain that, you know, this has been a traumatic week with the whole Jen scandal, and now I feel like I have to question certain things, so I'm questioning you, Mary. Then Mary in her confessional, she had the nerves to say, you know, for her to accuse me being in the same category as Jen, that's almost insulting, because Jen is taking money away from people, and she's committing fraud and all this, and she's actually a criminal. And to compare me to that, I would never. And I'm like, Mary, but that's exactly what you're doing. Like, maybe not word for word exactly what Jen is, but you're both in the same category. It's just she got exposed first, but you're right behind her. Heather continues going back and forth with Mary by telling her, you can't continue manipulating me by giving me gifts. You can't buy my friendship like that. And then Mary, she replies to Heather by telling her, oh, please, you let Jen manipulate you all the time. And I'm like, well, I mean, Heather, what's your comeback to that? Because, I mean, Mary's right. And then Heather's just like, no, I am not manipulated. I am not going to be manipulated anymore. I mean, Jen, I'll give her a pass, but I'm not allowing that anymore. And then Mary's just like, oh, please, you weren't even there for me back at the Italian event that I threw. You weren't even there to defend me or anything, or be in my side or in my corner. And then Heather's just like, oh, what are you talking about? No, I was there, but I was kind of tipsy because I had like 3 bottles of wine. So I was a little drunk. And then Mary, she replies to Heather by telling her, oh yeah, Of course, you're always drunk. You always have a glass of wine in your hand. Somebody's always driving you home. And I'm like, damn. I'm like, wait, Heather, you were in the right, but damn. Even Meredith, when they when they panned over to the reactions of Meredith, Lisa, and Jenny, Meredith was just like, well, I mean, and then Lisa's messy ass, she was just like, the whole time. I am sorry. Lisa is my favorite. She is my favorite from the entire cast. She is just very, very messy. I love the way she is on this show. For entertainment value, for the reality TV show aspect. She is my favorite on the cast. She has everything to be the perfect housewife in this franchise. You get what I'm saying? So she was just being messy, just smiling. Jenny, she was also smiling. I mean, Jenny was just like, oof, oh my God, like this is probably worse than Dewey telling me about the sister wife idea. But continue on, Mary. And then Heather is not having it anymore. She's not going back and forth with Mary because obviously Mary only cares to listen to Lisa or herself. So she gets up and she's like, you know what, whatever. We had a whole discussion last night, Lisa, and now you're saying the complete opposite. So as she storms out, she's at the bottom of the stairs, right? She's going back into her room. And Heather, she was really, really pissed. I mean, you could tell that she was like so red in the face. And I feel like if you push her buttons long enough, you'll get that oof reaction, that housewife reaction. Because for the most part, we always see Heather just in the background, just calm, cool, and collective. But here, obviously, she was getting really, really upset. And then when she reaches the bottom of the steps, she's like, oh, just continue talking to Lisa. She just told us the opposite last night, that her best friend, Cameron, he was underneath your spell, Mary, but continue listening to Lisa. And then Lisa, all she could say is, oh, no, I didn't say he was underneath a spell. I'm like, oh, okay, but you agree that everything else is true, right? But Heather is completely disengaged and she locks herself in a bathroom, and Whitney, she gets up and she's like, you know what, I'm gonna go follow Heather. So she goes and looks out for her, and then Lisa, all you hear her yelling is, wait, Heather, if you want to talk about this, all we could do is just come back up here and we can discuss this like grown adults. And I'm like, Lisa, no, because every time that they try to talk about this or try to give their perspective on things or try to clarify things, you're always yelling over them to try to clear your name and try to protect yourself. So by you telling them, oh, come back over here, all we're going to do is talk. That's a bunch of BS, because you know that you're just trying to save your own ass by over-talking them, by trying to yell over them, by trying to manipulate the conversation to go a certain way. And she continues saying, oh, I'm not God. Who am I? I am not a remote controller that I can just control everybody's emotions or their words. Yes, that may be true, but you have a way of manipulating certain scenarios to end up in a certain way or to have a certain outcome that will go in your favor. So you may not necessarily be telling anybody like, say this or do that, or say this or do that, but you put them in scenarios or you start certain conversations that go a certain way to end up a certain other way. So Lisa, you know what you're doing. You're just playing dumb. But regardless, Heather, she's having a whole meltdown in the bathroom. She's crying. Whitney's just like, what do you want to do? And Heather's just like, I want to go, but we are not going to get on the jet plane that they're going on, because Meredith, she had ordered a jet plane for everybody to go back home to. And I'm like, damn, must be nice. And then Mary, she starts crying, and I'm like, Mary, what are you crying over? And she just feels hurt that everybody accuses her of being some type of cult leader or having certain malicious ways that remind them of Jen, just because everything's going on around the same time. So, the way they all question about Jen, they're all questioning Mary, and Mary feels insulted by it. And then Mary, this is where she lost me completely, because I'm like, Mary, come on now, like you're fun TV. All of the wives are fun TV. All of them are fun to watch, on the show and everything. But Mary, she gets up and she's like, I just don't get Heather. I don't get it. I was born into my life. I wasn't given this life like this. I was just inherited into this life of money. And I'm like, Mary, that's a bunch of lies. First of all, that's your one point. That's a lie, because you basically had a fallout with your mother because you wanted to get with your granddaddy husband and marry him so you could have the church's money and have all of the money come into your name, underneath you instead of your mother. So, no, you may have been born into it, yes, but you fought for the title to be the next one in line to receive that money. So all of that is a bunch of BS too. But the point is, she gets up and she's like, oh, Heather and her chubby self. And I'm like, wow, Mary, I know you said some very foul things to the other women, to Whitney or to Heather, but damn, to call her chubby? Like, and you saw Meredith and Lisa, even both of them reacted, but none of them said anything. And I'm like, okay, Mary, let's not, let's not go there with the body shaming or, calling her fat or chubby or anything like that. Let's keep it above the surface. You could call them, everything else, but don't call them that. There's just no point to go in that direction. I feel like, okay, now you're taking it a little bit too far. And then she takes it even farther by having this conversation with Lisa, because as she's crying, she's trying to get her point across to Lisa. And she's like, I just feel so disrespected to feel compared to that thug, Jen. And I'm like, wow, so now we're calling Jen a thug? I mean, and again, this is from the audience perspective. We're all seeing this because we all know what's been going on these past couple months with Jen and her case. But at the moment where all of this was being filmed, for you to just assume that she's a thug or to even call her that, it's kind of like degrading, Mary. Like, you could have called her a criminal or something, or a scammer or something, but a thug? I don't think that you would like that if a white woman from the cast, like if Whitney was to call you that, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't like that. And then she's like, to compare me to that thug Jen, like, I just feel so disrespected. It's like one of those Mexicans that do the drugs. And I'm like, the what? Like, when I tell y'all, I had to replay the scene 3 times because I'm like, did she say what I think she said? Like, first it was the chubby comment because she said it so quickly that I'm like, oh, okay. And then I replayed it. I'm like, oh, well, she did say chubby. And then when she said the whole Mexican comment, I'm like, did she really say this? I know Mary has a way with words and she could be very extreme and stuff. And, it's all fun and games and everything with the whole show. But to say that, I don't know, it left a really bad taste in my mouth. I'm like, Mary, stop. That was a racist comment. And I know that people were saying, oh, no, she was just trying to compare her to the cartels and stuff. But still, that's not cool because the cartels are not the only Mexican drug dealers or whatever you want to label them as. They're not the only ones. So for her to say Mexicans specifically right there, right next to drug makers or whatever she said, that was also insulting. I'm like, Mary, you get no cool points for that. Lisa already had tweeted because people were saying, Lisa, you were right there and you didn't say anything. You made a face, but you didn't say anything. Lisa tweeted that it gets addressed later on in the season. That whole comment about the whole Mexican thing gets brought up again. Heather and Whitney, they're like, no, we're not getting on this jet plane. Everybody else, they're all packing their stuff. They all get on the bus to head on this jet plane, right? And then meanwhile, we see what I was about to say bad weather. Because isn't that their dynamic duo name? Mary, before she gets on the bus, she goes to meet up with Heather and she's like, I just want to discuss like what happened. And then that she feels hurt because she was talking behind her back. And I'm like, but Lisa was talking behind your back too. And that's what they were all trying to say, that everybody, Jenny was just like, everybody was talking behind your back, Mary. Everybody here. And I don't get why Heather and Whitney are the only two that are being pinpointed at. When Meredith and Lisa are right there. Yeah, Meredith may have owned up to it, but she was still part of the problem. But again, Lisa just got her way again. And Heather's just like, well, I'm sorry, if you felt that way or whatever. And I'm sorry if I made you feel that way. And then I forgot what Mary said, where Heather was just like, okay, well, whatever. And then Mary, she wasn't having it again. And then I thought they were going somewhere with that. But then she was just like, you know what? No, you're weird. It's fine. It's whatever. You're a fake friend. She walked away. And that was that. And then they get on the bus. They head over to the jet plane. And then we see again, bad weather. That's what I want to keep calling them. Whitney and Heather, they were like on the side of the porch at the bottom of the stairs. And I'm just like, Whitney and Heather, I mean, I get that you have your problems with Mary, Meredith, and Lisa, possibly Jenny, but I would have put my pride aside to get on that jet. Like, I would have gotten on it and just given them the cold shoulder. Like, now you're stuck at the bottom of the steps. Like, okay, I need to look for a flight. Oh, there's a 2-for-1 special. Oh, there's a Spirit Airline. The Spirit Airlines has a 2-for-1 special. You want to go on that one, Heather? Okay, let's book that one. Because now you're stuck there looking for an airplane. And even Lisa called it. She was like, if you would have discussed your issues with us, like grown women, you wouldn't be taking off your shoes at an airport and going through security. You would have been on the jet plane with us. And I'm like, Lisa, that would have been possible if you would have just shut your mouth for like 5 seconds and let them talk. But we didn't get that. Now, did we? And that was that, y'all. What did y'all think about this episode? And did y'all see the mid-season trailer? The mid-season trailer has so much going on in it. We see Jenny versus Mary again, and then Jenny's throwing drinks. We see Lisa versus Meredith. We see Lisa versus Mary. So it's funny that we're seeing all of this on this episode when none of it is going to matter in a couple of episodes more, because they're all going to stop being friends again. I mean, Lisa is going to possibly turn on Mary and Meredith, like, and Whitney and Heather are both probably going to be looking at it like, yeah, we told y'all, it was just bound to happen. It's just crazy because they seem like they're a team now, but according to that trailer, whoo, like, they're going to melt all the snow in Salt Lake City because they're bringing the heat. And I don't think, and we also see Jen too. She's attacking, I believe, Lisa on the bus. It's crazy. The whole trailer looks intense. I am telling y'all, the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City is the future of the Housewives franchise in general. I mean, I hope that they could top this for season 3, because season 2 has been really, really good so far. I mean, every episode since Jen's arrest has been really, really good so far. So I can only imagine how it's going to play out, towards the finale and then the reunion. It only took a couple, like 6 slow episodes at the beginning. But, now things are getting a little bit spicier. And I know I said that they needed like a cast shakeup and everything because it was slow at the beginning. But, I think I may take that back. Maybe. I think maybe Whitney and Heather, I don't know. I'll see how I feel about Whitney, Heather, and Jenny by the end of the season. We shall see what happens with them, because I said that they, and including Meredith, should have been gone. But now I feel like I should take that back because now they're bringing it. But again, let me know what y'all thought about this whole episode as a whole. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Bye, y'all. Mwah. Also, one more thing. I am going to continue reviewing The Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, but I'm taking care of certain things, my personal life and everything. So, just give me a moment. It'll come. It's just, I'm figuring things out. With that being said, that's my thing with that. If anybody was wondering, or if nobody has checked it out, go check it out. Go look at those reviews as well. But with that being said, bye, y'all. Mwah.